to move until he said, let there be. And that's all he had to do was just say, let there be. And nobody has that kind of power, let there be. You might think you got some power, but unless you can say, let there be, you can walk into a classroom and you think you got charge of the classroom and you say, let there be quietness in here. And there. You said to get thrown out of the classroom. It is God. So we want you to know that studying this book reveals the existence of God, lets us know that he was in the beginning. He was the one responsible for creation. And when you look through creation, you see the handprint of God everywhere. So if you're in doubt about who created all of this and how all of this came about, all you got to do is to go to the book. It reveals us to us. And if you can't read, amen. If you can't read, all you got to do is to walk outdoors round by midnight. Look up in the sky. This is the time of year that the sky is bedecked with stars, and stars are twinkling everywhere. And all you got to do is to just look around up in the sky and look at the stars that are hanging there, and none of them are falling. None of them have blown a fuse. And the sun rises every morning, and for centuries it has not run into the moon, nor has it bumped into the other planets. I've come to let you know God is in charge. And all of it's in the book of books. And this is where we've got to begin our study, because it is in this book that it reveals the existence of God, not any other book. There's no other book. I don't care how relevant the book is. I don't care what the book says about God. It is God who is speaking the world into existence. In the other book, it's somebody writing about what God did. When we read this book, we hear God saying, let there be light. And there was light. But when I write the book, you got to pick up the book and you read here where it says, and the book says, the writer says, and God said. But when you pick up this book, it lets us know that God is doing the talking. So it is he then who is responsible for creation. And we can only know this if we study. As Paul says to Timothy, study to show thyself approved. Study the word, because it reveals the existence of God. But that's not the only thing it reveals. It also reveals the glory of God. The glory of God. You know, the glory of God. You see, the glory of man, the glory of people is based on what they do. That's one of the things that troubles me about our race in this day and age. You know, it used to be a time when we were coming on, we used to strive to be something and to do something. And all of the Negro spirituals and all of the other songs that we wrote and all of the writings and the poems and all of the stuff that we did, all of that represented our glory, to let us know, to let folk know that despite our oppression, we were still able to sparkle. was our glory. And the thing that bothers me in this day and time, so many of us have lost sight of the glory. But this book reveals the glory of God. Oh, come here, writer. Help me out a little bit. Psalms 8:1, when it says, when I consider the heavens and all of his handiworks, the question comes to mind, what is man that thou art mindful of him? In other words, what the psalmist does, the psalmist says that I look at the heavens and I can see the glory of God. I can look at the earth. I can see the glory of God. I can look into the seas and I can see the glory of God. And then when I turn around and look at man and see how destructive he is and how he runs an oil company and allows all of the oil to come up into the ocean and kill the fish and the birds. And when I consider all of that, I ask the question, what is man? Doesn't make me any difference that he is president of BP. What is man? Come this morning to let you know that it reveals the glory of God. And the only place that we're going to find it is in here. If you want to read about it, it's in here. Psalms 8:1-3. But then not only that, we also see the glory of God in the creation. Especially when we look at Genesis 1:20-23. And he talks about creating the fish of the sea and all of the animals and all of the things of the sea and how they swam into the sea and how they begin to exercise that inherent gifts. It represents the glory of God. But then the uttermost, I mean the epitome of God's glory, is seen in his son. I'm talking about Jesus. I'm not talking about the healings that he did. That's good. I'm not talking about that. But when I'm talking about the glory of God shone forth on Easter Day, on Resurrection Sunday, when they went looking for him and he wasn't there. That's the epitome of God's glory. Because it says to us that we didn't come here to stay. We're just pilgrim travelers. And one day we're going to leave here and they're going to bury us somewhere in some grassy, lovely, well-lawned place. But I've come this morning to let you know that ain't the last stop. That's only the dressing room. Amen, lights. That's where I'm going to go and get my robe. That's where I'm going to go and get my sandals. That's where I'm going to go and get my crown. That's where I'm going to go and get my new life. It's just a dressing room. So I've come this morning to let you know that the resurrection of Jesus, his ascension, the Red Sea crossing, Job's turnaround, cattle on 1,000 hills, Daniel in the lion's den. All of these things reveal the glory of God. As I've said to you so often, you say, well, how does that fit in today's life? Well, you see, the glory of God is manifested even in this day in life. There are people who the doctor has given up on and said they weren't going to make it, but they're still around here. They've got good health. I've come to let you know God's glory still exists. But then finally, I want you to know that this book, when you study it, you discover that it reveals the mind of God. The mind of God. You see, the mind lets you know how a person thinks. Amen? If you want to know how a person thinks, all you got to do is just listen. Amen. You don't have to say a word. Just be around, be cool, just listen. And you'll find out what kind of mind they have. Amen? I don't know I don't care how many degrees they got. I don't care what school they've been to. I don't care what stage they walk across on. I don't care about all of that. If you just sit and listen. Amen. I remember in Alabama, you know, there were those who used to dress up, and boy, you look at them, and boy, you say, oh man, the way they dressed and everything was matched, everything was put together. You say, you know, man, wow, you know, they must have a little something, and either they have some money or you know, they went to some school, and you know, they be strutting like, you know, yeah, they all that. Amen. But don't let them open their mouth. Don't let them get upset. All of that dignity and all of that finesse goes down the drain. If you want to know the mind of God, you got to find it, you got to read this book. It reveals the mind of God. It reveals the thinking of God. What